Hey, it's just me really quickly. I wanted to make a video to kind of explain some of the PBL stuff I had commented on, I believe, Michaela's PBL, and just to give you a little bit of idea exactly what my expectations are. I think it's very difficult to think outside of the box and think beyond a unit, or to think beyond planning a project for your students. And although it is called project-based learning, it is more than just a project or a unit of study. The one thing you want to think about that will drive everything with regard to your PBL is having some type of initial question that makes them think deeper. One of the things Holly is doing in this course is she's looking at natural disasters. So what I asked her to do was, instead of just saying, what are natural disasters, that's not really if you look at Webb's depth of knowledge or any higher order thinking, all you're doing is asking them to go to the base level of thinking. Just tell me what it is and regurgitate information. However, what if you ask them, if there was a natural disaster, what could I do for housing per se? So at that point, the students have to know what are different types of natural disasters. With each natural disaster, what occurs to the landscape, what occurs to the housing, what occurs to people, what do? Do they go underground? Do they find higher ground? Are they going to relocate? I think a lot about when we experienced Hurricane Katrina. That would be a really good thing to look at with regard to, for instance, what Holly is doing. So instead of having an overarching question in a PBL, what is a natural disaster, you could come up with higher order thinking of what does one do, or what do people do for housing or shelter after a natural disaster. What it does is it's going to push the students to have to learn different types of natural disasters, what type of science goes along with those, what happens to the landscape after it. How does the government and the state fund those types of resources when they need new housing? How do people cope? So it brings in literature of strife and hard times for individuals. So again, think beyond the knowledge level and think about the problem solving level. And at the end of a PBL, if your students definitively don't have an answer, that's okay. What you're doing is teaching them along the way to be problem solvers and critical thinkers. The other thing in a PBL that is a must is you have to teach your students how to work in small groups, small cooperative groups, and give them all a role or a job. So someone may be the recorder, so maybe be the researcher, and maybe those job roles change. But if you don't definitively give them something, a role to do every day, you will have chaos in your classroom when you tell students to go out and research tornadoes for natural disasters, or you tell them to go research this or that. They all need job roles and titles. So that's another thing to include when you start developing your PBL. So hopefully that's a little bit more descriptive and gets you to thinking a little bit differently. Remember, you don't want a unit of study. You want a project-based learning outcome that really gets the students to having those higher order thinking skills. And I did post some Webb's depth of knowledge resources that'll kind of get you to thinking as well. It poses some just basic questions from the knowledge level all the way up to critical thinking levels. And again, if you are having trouble wrapping your mind around the PBL, go out and look for PBLs that are similar to what you're wanting to do. And I can tell you those are going to spark your imagination and creativity with regard to what you could do with your students in the classroom. Lastly, I think that what you have to do with a PBL is you have to think about the age of individual you're going to be teaching. This is probably something that's maybe second grade, but I look at more of a third, fourth, fifth on up type grade level initiative. You may start with the planning where you spend a week talking about the initial part of this, and maybe it's something that expands even throughout a semester where you spend a small amount of time each Friday, and it's PBL Friday, and maybe that's all you do on Fridays over a 6 to 8 week period. You could definitely extend it into that, and even though you may use units of study in your classroom, the PBL can be worked into that. So if you have other questions, let me know, but I wanted to make a quick video and kind of explain the thought process behind it. And again, nothing keeps you from going out and looking online to see what other PBLs have been done that are similar to what you're doing. So anyway, I hope that helps. I hope you have a good week, and I will be grading now that I've moved and my life is a little less chaotic. Have a great week. Talk to you soon. Bye.